Today I am celebrating the birthday of the fourth Doctor, Mr. Tom Baker, who is going to be turning 80 years old today. You know, for the first 31 years that I wasn't consistently watching Doctor Who, this was the character that I immediately thought of when I thought of Doctor Who. The long scarf, the frock coat, the hat. If you saw a Doctor Who parody in a magazine or on a television show, it was inevitably the visage of Tom Baker that you saw. What I didn't know, or at least didn't know very well until I got into the show, that Tom Baker's Doctor was just the fourth link in a very long chain of regenerations of the Doctor. So this was theoretically the first Doctor I had any familiarity with at all. When I was watching Doctor Who bit by bit, when I was younger, but never a complete serial of any sort, save maybe for the Brain of Morbius, which I only remember pieces of as it is. But anyway, before I get into my collection of Tom Baker era DVDs, we're going to be doing a little brief time traveling of our own here. Here's the bit of time traveling we're going to be doing. It's not April yet, it's only January. But Tom Baker is going to be appearing, being the fourth Doctor of course, on the fourth month of the year, which is April, on this calendar. There's Tom himself looking very concerted. There's one of the mummies from the pyramids of Mars behind him, of course. To your left, there's a Wern from the Ark in Space. In the middle, of course, is the K-1 robot from Tom Baker's debut story entitled Robot. There is Davros, of course, making his first appearance in Genesis of the Daleks. And K9! I do a very bad John Leeson. I'm very apologetic for that. But that's Tom Baker on the calendar. And now to the DVDs. Now I'd like to note here that as with all of the classic Doctor Who stories, I have only bits and pieces that I actually purchased on DVD. Others I've rented and watched and reviewed on Netflix. Anyhow, this was actually the first Tom Baker story, and it is not the special edition, I wanted to note that, of The Ark in Space. Actually, his second story, wonderful tale about the Wern, introduces the space station Nerva, also used as a Nerva beacon, in another story called Revenge of the Cybermen, in kind of a story arc for this particular season, which featured Space Station Nerva. There's the late Elizabeth Sladen as Sarah Jane Smith, and Ian Marcher as Harry Sullivan and some Wern. The next story I have, and this is actually the last Fourth Doctor era story to come out on DVD, Terror of the Zygons. Really great story about the Loch Ness Monster. Just saw it. Highly recommended. One of the Fourth Doctor's best. This is the Pyramids of Mars. A lot of people consider this to be one of the greatest Doctor Who stories ever made, in addition to the City of Death, which I rented from Netflix but don't have here on DVD, but if they come out with a special edition one day, or if I find it cheaply, that might change. Anyhow, this is a story about a deity called Sutekh, who was actually an alien who had affected ancient Egyptian mythology. It's an interesting, cerebral mystery, and really epitomizes the Hammer horror era of the Doctor Who. Actually, though, I will say just personally, this is probably not my favorite of the Tom Baker era exactly, but it is a really good story. I mean, I can see why it would certainly get so much accolades from Whovians, hooligans, or whatever. This is the Face of Evil. A lot of people don't like this story for some reason, but it's the introduction of Louise Jameson's Leela, sort of the Eliza Doolittle to the Doctor, kind of a Pygmalion story they have between the two of them. And this is basically a story that continues a story arc that has been used throughout Doctor Who, of the Doctor being, quote-unquote, as the Seventh Doctor might say, more than just a little Time Lord, another Time Lord. As you can see, Tom Baker's face as the Doctor was Mount Rushmore style in the background of this mountain, and that epitomizes the entire episode. that a computer intelligence was running a society based on the Doctor's core personality. And just watch it. It's not a bad story at all. I really enjoy this one. The next one is The Robots of Death, which actually is another very good story that came during the Louise Jameson Leela era. This is, again, not a special edition, but if I find them, even as not special editions, I generally get them. Really good story. This episode is called The Talons of Wang Chiang, and this is a Sherlock Holmesian style mystery. I'm actually, as we speak, right in the middle of this story, but so far it's pretty good. There are some kind of questionable ethnic stereotypes involving the Chinese, but political incorrectness aside, there seems to be a social message in there somewhere about that. Again, not a special edition, but wherever I can get it, I get them. You know, budgetary concerns are a reason why I don't have all the stories and why some of them aren't special editions. Horror of Fang Rock. Okay, for you who know television history, on the public TV station WTTW in Chicago, actually, in 1987, a video pirate wearing a Max Headroom mask interrupted the first part of this serial when being broadcast on that station with this very twisted and irreverent diatribe making fun of the new Coke and so on and so forth. You want to check that out on YouTube. Look for the Max Headroom pirating incident, Doctor Who. It's one of the biggest oddities of the 1980s that I only recently learned about. You should look that up. My friend Justin Hyman, the new Time Travel Hyman 88 on YouTube, check out his channel and subscribe. Told me about the Max Headroom incident, so you want to check that out. Otherwise, really good story actually, very claustrophobic, and introduces the Rutan, the shape-shifting, until this time unseen, nemesis of the Sontarans. Really good kind of claustrophobic horror story. And of course there is Shada! The last episode of the 17th season that for many reasons was never completed and untransmitted. So this is basically just a series of scenes patched together with continuity from Tom Baker and more than 30 years in the TARDIS as a bonus feature. It's really a great story. I would have loved to have seen it complete on television. It would have been right up there with City of Death, I think. Oh my goodness, I am so sorry about that. Anyway, that's what I have for the Fourth Doctor. Now, I have also been asked recently, why don't I actually rehearse these videos I'm doing as a script and include a slideshow of photographs of these DVDs or clips from the show rather than show them in this fashion? Well, it's not a naturalness idea that I'm looking for. I simply think that considering my approach to reviewing, that I don't use a script, that I rely on my own wits, the same as the Doctor does, relying on his own wits rather than necessarily planning everything out, I feel it very much coincides with the idea of Doctor Who, that I rely on improvisation and my wits to do these reviews rather than over-planning things. And I just wanted to let everybody know that. And I wanted to thank everybody on Facebook and on Twitter who have been enjoying and sharing all of my Doctor Who videos and reviews. And happy 80th birthday to Mr. Tom Baker. See you next time, everybody.